Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Kapua'ala. I'm dropping this video as a special request from one of our students. As you know, today marks the anniversary of one of the biggest atrocities our nation has ever faced, and especially in recent times. This is, of course, the incidents that occurred on September 11th, 2001, in which a terrorist organization known as Al-Qaeda flew 4 hijacked planes into 4 locations, one of which was the Twin Towers, or the World Trade Center in New York. This resulted in the death of over 2,977 people and injured over 25,000. Many people who responded to the attacks on the Twin Towers are still having health effects to this day. I was asked by one of our students, because we didn't have a whole lot of time in class, to share my story of where I was during this time in 2001 and how it affected me, even though I was far removed from the actual atrocities that occurred. So I'm going to talk about that now because we really didn't have a chance to talk about this in class. So I was living with my grandfather at the time in Soquel, California, in Santa Cruz. And I was a pretty lazy kid, and I would wake up pretty late. So my grandfather would always come in and throw water on me to get me up. He would either use a wet washcloth and throw it on me, or rip the sheets away, do something to get me up and ready for breakfast. Instead of him coming in and waking me up quite aggressively, he was very somber in his approach. Came up to me and said, "Hey, there's something on the TV that I think you need to see." Now, I originally wasn't planning on responding to that because there was more sleep to be had, and I was going to have it. But there was something that told me today was a little bit different, and that I should probably get up and see what was happening. So I did. My grandpa was sitting in the living room. Breakfast wasn't made like it usually was, and he was glued to the television, speechless. As I approached the TV, I didn't really know what to make of it. I was around 14 years old. I had just started my freshman year of high school in a brand new town that I had never been to, and this on the screen was not only shocking, but also confusing. All I could see was a tiny little dot being hurled into gigantic buildings, and then those buildings exploding, and the clip was playing over and over and over again. And I remember all the adults that day having the same demeanor that my grandfather did. And when I got to school, things were so different for the faculty there. My first class was World Civ. As I approached the World Civ classroom, my instructor was not inside, but instead, we saw him down the hallway frantically wheeling a TV, which we used to carry on carts back when I was in school, that used to have a VCR system and everything. But he was pushing a TV on the cart to the classroom so that we could plug in and watch the news. Well, he didn't realize that when we got the TV inside, there was no reception, no antenna, and no cable plug-in. So what we relied upon was one of the students in the classroom who happened to have their portable radio with them. The little ones that you have with headphones, and they're probably about this big, little transistor radio. And they were listening to a radio station, I think it was NPR, the National Public Radio System, and they were giving updates on the attacks and how our government was responding to them. And I'll never forget the words that came out of the student's mouth, and then the words that came out of my instructor. So she says, "They just moved to orange alert." I had no idea what that meant. But right after that, my teacher looked at us and said, "Folks, we're at war." And I remember feeling like the day had just gotten more abnormal than the start. And it continued like that for days and days. It took a long time and a lot of talking to sort out the chaos that we had just seen happen in one of our own states. It's very important to realize that the last time that we even had to deal with a foreign attack on our land was in the 40s with the attacks on Pearl Harbor prior to World War II. So this was a huge thing for every generation. This was something brand new, something we had not experienced before at this magnitude. And it was something that deeply changed the American fabric forever. And it's something that we still have to look at today and remember so that we keep those people who died, who were injured, who responded to the chaos, we keep their memories alive. And we keep the memory of the incident alive because it was something that forever affected how we view security of our nation and how we view threats outside of our nation. One of the largest effects that this had on our everyday lives was the fact that we could no longer trust the standard security of our airports. Going on an airplane before September 11th, 2001, you could bring on your pocket knife if you needed to, like a Swiss Army knife or something. You could have nail clippers if you wanted to use them. There wasn't a lot of regulation on what you could and could not bring. You were able to walk your loved ones all the way up to the gate for exit onto the airline itself. So now today we call September 11th Patriot Day in honor of all those Americans who lost their lives from the horrific attacks brought on by a group of terrorists. And so I ask you to join me before I leave you for the weekend with a moment of silence to respect those who have lost their lives and those who continue to have health problems because of the destruction and aftermath that went on the World Trade Center, September 11th, 2001.